What a go on YouTube nation? Me man, Missa B. And today we want to take on a little topic that me know some man go cringe and me kind of run it on Facebook and me see where the discussion will go. But as the World Cup kind of start to draw down to the semi-final and final stanza, this is a topic where I always like revisit around World Cup time. And, it's interesting that I do this because, I grew up in Jamaica at a time in the 1970s when Jamaicans were considered, and the island itself was considered as sort of the epicenter of social and political consciousness within the Caribbean space. And so, when you get to a stage, here we are in the 21st century, where Black people seem to have lost the sense of themselves, right? You start to provide the kind of support. There was a Observer article that showed a Jamaican youth who take a minibus and spend over 300,000 Jamaican dollar. And a fee money and him free for do what he want to do. And him take that money and him spend it and him blast on this minibus in Argentine team colors. And, as I say, a fee money and him, him free for do what he want to do. But it kind of make you wonder, what is driving the thinking? And before we come to the main point, I just want to remind you, that if you don't subscribe to the channel yet, I'm going to ask you to subscribe because that helps. And, if you like the videos, just click the like button and more importantly, leave your feedback in the comments section. We're not if you agree, but leave your comments. But subscribe to the channel, like the videos, and share, because that helps. We'll look on a growth thing. But let's come back to the Argentine thing. Now, I grew up in the 1970s as came of age, started to work 1976, started watch World Cup football from 1970 with the great King Pele that, opened most of us eyes to the sport. And then, you watch the thing progress. 1978, we saw the great Argentine side with Kempes and Ardiles and so on. And they won the World Cup. I think they won again in 1986. And the thing that struck me is how come Argentina, as a South American team, just around the corner from Brazil, and there is no Black player on the Argentine side. No black player. And then it forced me to draw on my research skill. I worked at Tamarincom Library for a number of years, and so and I had access to the research library and so on, and started to hone my research skills. And I decided to do my own research because that's what you go to school for. You get an education, you use it. Argentina and Brazil were the recipients, the two South American countries that were the recipient of the largest amount of Africans that were transported from Africa into the Anglophile Caribbean and into the Americas. In fact, the Argentinian port would have been the major port for the first drop-off for slaves in Buenos Aires, right? And then, of course, you move to Rio de la Plata and so on. And the slaves would then be transported, to other areas in South America. But the bottom line is, such was the influx of Black people in Argentina that by 1831, Blacks made up 37% of the Argentinian population. Today, Black people make up less than 2% of the Argentine population. In fact, there is no visible presence of Black people in the country of Argentina. There's no Black person who is enmeshed in any areas of commerce, politics, aspects of the country's social life, certainly sports. There's no black people. And the question is, why? Argentina represents the best demonstration of a country that has successfully rid its population of a particular population group. So this South American country and its football team is a representation, it's a mirror of the success that the country has had in getting rid of black people out of its country. Right? What the Argentines have done, and it started in the early 1800s. They went to the War of Independence in 1813, and they conscripted blacks into the army. And the realization was that, hold on, but here's an opportunity that we can use to sort of address the black problem. And by 1864, when the Spanish-American War broke out between, and the two major combatants, because there were more than just the two countries participating. But Argentina went to war against Paraguay. And what the Argentinian government at the time did is that they conscripted all of the black men that they could find and put them at the front of the line, right? And basically they became cannon fodder, right? And what it did is that it was a successful way of eliminating or what we call increasing the pace of elimination of the black population. And then those who survived and the rest of the black population, what the government did is put them into communities that had little social amenities, no running water. In fact, at the time, Argentina had a massive cholera and typhoid outbreak. And you basically move the black people into those populations. There were no hospitals, no medical care. And that itself took care of most of the rest of the black population, to the extent that a lot of the black people who were conscripted into the army, when they realized the circumstances that they were faced with, a lot of them deserted and they went to other countries. Bolivia, a lot of them made a trek into Brazil and so on. And yes, Brazil and some of the other South American countries have its own race problem. But the fact is that Brazil has the largest population of black people outside of Africa. I think Brazilian black population about 83 million. And a lot of that was helped by, at the end of slavery, a lot of black people from Argentina and elsewhere who saw that this was the only refuge that they had, and they ran to Brazil, right? The Brazilian government also practiced this, what we call inbreeding principle, where the women who were left, there was this encouragement of cohabitation with white men, which basically whitened the black population, what was left of the black population. And that experiment has been exceptionally successful. And the Argentinian football team is a representation of the success of Argentine genocide and what we call population cleansing. So when a man who is a Jamaican, a black Jamaican man, get up and tell me, say, boy, him can't thing, and him is an Argentine football fan. And I can understand it, because I love the sport just like the next man. But there are some things in life that is bigger than sport. And this is one of them, We can talk about racism elsewhere. And racism exists everywhere. That is a fact, right? Even in Jamaica. But the Argentine situation is a demonstration of a country that has successfully pursued a policy of eradication. Listen, remember, you have racism, which is one thing, right? And we can talk about all of the European countries who play football, because that's part of the argument that a whole heap of man throw back after you, that, in America and all kind of thing. But None of those countries deliberately pursued a policy of elimination of the black population from those countries. England, with its, you know, racist overtones, you know, we can talk Belgium and France and the United States of America. Yeah, we're guilty. But in those countries, you don't have the kind of demonstrated practice of literally going to these extremes to get rid of black people out of your population. Remember, at the end of the Second World War, 1945, when the war finished, most of the Nazis who were guilty of the atrocities committed against the Jews and the Gypsies and blacks in Europe, what they did is that they headed for Argentina, because Argentina, as a political space, was very reflective of the very thing that they were doing in East and Western Europe, right? And so they were quite at home, right, to come to Argentina and find space. In fact, remember, Argentina don't have no, what we call, no treaty where you send back people when them find them down there. So I think a lot of the Germans and those who were interested in bringing these people to justice had to literally go in Argentina and thief them out, right? Because here was a country that this was a policy at the national level, right? Carlos Menem, who was a president of Argentina for, what was it, certainly in the 1990s, made the comment when asked. He said, Argentina don't have a black problem. In fact, we hardly have a black population. That problem with black people is a Brazilian problem. So let me tell you something, yard people. We need to understand, it's not just sport and football and things. There are some things that are greater than just sports, right? When we embrace the people who are trying to eliminate us, right? It speaks to the this kind of a principle where you fall in love with your captors, right? We you know, I can't remember the name, the term, or the principle, but the bottom line is that is where we are. And when we as a people can find it within ourselves to force your consciousness back down that road, right? Yeah, everybody love the game, you know. Messi is a good player. I mean, I come and watch football too. But I'm not going to lose sight of the fact that this is what this football team represents. There's some imagery that is bigger than sport. And what the Argentine team represent is that here is a squad of people that is reflective of a national policy that says that as a black person, you ain't good enough. You don't belong in our space. Worse, you don't belong on our football team. Think about that, right? That's why me, Missa B, no have no way to support no Argentine team. I mean, I understand Jamaicans who, you know, wrap themselves in this kind of thing because it says that you're dunce. That's what it tells me. That you are socially, politically, and humanely dumb. That's my feel. You don't have to agree with me now, but still. Let me hear your thoughts. Put your feedback in the comment section. If you like the video, hit the like button, share with your friend. And, you know, as we say, may the best team win the World Cup as we dribble down to the end, you know, enjoying the football. But remember, as a black man, as a black person, Argentina, think about it more time.